We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 16.
16, Jeff.
I know.
16.
Whoa.
16. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you know, like we're about to go into a new year.
Yeah.
And it's also like thinking back, like, oh man, what have we done this year? And then we're like, whoa, we're 16 episodes deep into a podcast.
Yeah.
That is essentially 32 weeks for us. Does that, no.
Oh my God. No, that's
right.
totally,
Okay.
yeah. I'm just like,
Yeah.
when you put it into perspective, 32 weeks.
32 weeks.
You're like, oh, that's not long. That's like 2 months. You're
Yeah.
like, no, it's
no,
not.
it's not.
There's 4 weeks in a month.
Wild,
oh my
right?
God.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Still kicking. As long as Marvel keeps pumping out content,
we'll still
we're
be here.
still here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of wild. I guess we'll just get right into our usual wrap up, top of the show stuff. So yeah, I'm happy to announce we have new Patreon patrons. A welcome to Nats from the UK. Thank you for joining our little crew here.
Woo.
And happy upgrade to Ashley and Laura C, who had just joined the We Are Groot tier.
Woo, woo,
So thank you. Welcome to the family. We love having you here. Thank you so much for your support. Speaking of Patreon, we have a new True Believer exclusive. That's the middle tier, and it's essentially a decal of the show logo. You can use it anywhere you want, on your laptop, on your water bottle, on your car window, whatever. And it's basically available to anybody contributing $3 or more. So if you haven't yet, go on over, hit that link in the show notes, or if you're already doing it, just hang tight and you should receive your decal in the next week or two.
Some pretty cool swag.
Some pretty cool stuff. I know, like, I kind of joke on social a lot about, you know, like, oh, we have new stuff, but like, really, it's because I want it.
Yeah.
I personally want it. I'm just like, this logo is so sick.
I know.
Thank you again, Cody. And so I'm just like, I want to put it everywhere, and I want to make variations of it in every color, and I want to do this and that.
Cool.
But yeah, so head on over to our Patreon, and you can take a look-see at that. And in my redacted notes, Jeff,
Oh, God.
we have new listeners. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Oh, my God. They just keep coming in.
I love it.
From different areas. Okay, where is it this time?
That's the thing, right? Like, can you even keep track at this point? Like, it's like a bingo card of all of the localities in the world.
I know we've had some listeners, like a lot scattered throughout Europe.
Yes.
I think there was one in Central America at some point, or was it South
we have
America?
Brazil and Peru.
Yes.
But for this episode, I'd like to give a shout out to our friends down under.
No, that was my next guess. Oh!
So Australia.
Wow.
Good day, mates. I'm sorry if that's so generic. Good day. Hello. So we have some new listeners in Australia. Thank you so much. And
It's amazing.
And I feel like I said this already, but I went back in all my notes. We have not shouted out this country yet, but Greece.
Oh,
Greece.
Wow.
So that's
Love
kind of
it.
fitting in a few ways,
Love
considering
that.
today's topic. But oh shoot! See, I wrote it down and now I forgot. Sas Efkaristo. So thank you.
I mean,
yeah, I'm
I
trying.
definitely would have botched that.
It was a tough one. So thank you to Australia and Greece, and welcome to the show. Before I continue with the rest of the intro, I wanted to spring a surprise on you.
Oh my God. Yo, Dai does this every time, and I always come to her place, and she just nonchalantly does.
We have some good chats. We talk about stuff, and sometimes I come in with a surprise.
She just throws things at me.
A surprise, not literally.
Okay, here
But
we go.
So there is this artist that I love. in Malaysia.
Okay.
I don't remember how I stumbled upon their art in the first place, but I think I just saw a retweet from somebody. You know, Marvel Twitter's crazy like that. And maybe a year or two ago, I started commissioning them for work, and I got some stuff done. And that is just really cute, like chibi versions of characters. And so I wanted to surprise you with something that I got commissioned. And so shout out to Kyrill, by the way. And so I will post this on our social media, but this is one of two. The second isn't finished yet. Okay. And so I comped this up to show you, but
guys, I literally have no idea.
Here you go.
Whoa! Oh my god! This is so good.
You're so cute. Oh, I should have recorded you. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Whoa.
So, I'm gonna describe it for y'all now. If you don't follow us on social, please hit the follow button for STRKCNTRST. But the artwork is basically Kyrill chibied us, and so I asked them to draw me with like a Spider-Man shirt and some chucks on, and then when I described you, I was like, can you put him...
I'm literally wearing that right now! I'm so mad!
It's so made up!
Wearing that exact same outfit!
So Jeff is wearing the same outfit in the fan art, which is hilarious. And that's the funny thing. I just said, can you please put him in a hoodie and a hat? Here's his Instagram. Here's a picture to base it off of. And they did the rest. They chose the
I am
pose.
posting this on my Instagram.
Oh my God. They nailed it. They nailed you.
Dude,
I was like,
that's crazy.
so good. So thanks again to Kyrill in Malaysia. I appreciate you. You're such a great artist. I'll put their links or their link in the show notes as well, just so you can take a peek. They're big Stoney fans. They love Steve and Tony. They do great artwork.
Love that.
Support them if you can. But yeah, so to get on with the rest of the show.
Before we do,
yeah,
let's give a quick update on what we were able to attend.
Please, yes.
We're recording on a Wednesday, so last night, the 16th November. I mean, I said this off camera, or off mic. I didn't realize how big an event it was until I saw it all plastered through social media. But we were at the LA kind of trailer launch event of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes, we were.
And so this was my first experience, like at least this is my first, like, we've been to a couple of the early fan screens, whatever, but this was the first Spidey experience for me. Yeah. And guys, let me tell you.
In the wild.
Spider-Man fans are insane. I mean that in the most great way possible, but holy shit.
The energy in that room
was crazy.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if you follow along with Sony or Spider-Man on social media, you would see that our mate Tom Holland was in the building answering questions. He was so humble and lovely, and just, oh my God, he's like the embodiment of Peter Parker.
And if you haven't seen the video all plastered on social media or whatever, the moment right after we watched the trailer for the second trailer for the first time, Tom Holland came up tearing up.
He was
I was
crying.
like, whoa, that's insane.
Incredibly moved. And so it's crazy to think about, because it could mean so many things. And it could also just be him being like, oh my gosh, I love the energy in this room. Yeah. Spider-Man fans are greatest, you know?
I know a lot of people don't like when they're in theaters and they don't like the hooting and hollering. Yeah. I personally don't mind it as long as it's in great taste. Yeah. And I think it was rightful in that moment, because the anticipation, even for just a trailer, was kind of just like off the charts. I was talking about this with Dad when we were waiting in line yesterday. I was just like, there's never been a trailer that has so much anticipation. Right. The trailer's literally 3 minutes.
And not even, it's like just under. Yeah. It's like 2:57. Yeah. And yet, there
were so many people there.
It was incredible.
People were there since like 9 a.m.
Since 9 a.m.
The event was at 5.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think we can talk about this like even more fleshed out and in full. Like, we have a mini Marvel coming up in a couple of episodes, and I would love to just kind of like revisit, that event with you and kind of get into the nitty gritty of things like that. Yeah,
that was definitely an event. I hope we're able to see like
for
that
sure. So,
early.
but thank you for bringing that up, because thanks to our friend James Viscardi at comicbook.com for getting us on the list. And that was an awesome experience. It
was great.
And I'm glad you got to go, because it was honestly, it's something else. Spider-Man just brings another thing out of people in the most amazing, no pun intended way. Like, it's just another...
the amount of knowledge some of those guys have. There's random trivia questions going up, and the amount of knowledge people have.
It's that love.
It's pretty insane. Mm-hmm. It's pretty electric to kind of witness. Like, I was kind of like, I will say I was definitely overwhelmed. Yeah. But I was just like, but it was just mostly me just kind of like absorbing it all in. And I was just like, this is crazy.
Oh gosh. Okay. So with that, we will move on to today's episode. And of course, we're not experts. We don't claim to be. We're just a couple of nerds having fun and having a great discussion. And so if you have anything to add to the conversation, please hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. So this is a huge character lineup. Huge, okay? And so we've 15 episodes deep. We've done literally a couple of characters who have dual sort of identities or entities involved with them. And those are kind of hefty because, you kind of really have to dedicate half to the first, like to Eddie Brock, for instance, and then half to Venom because they are one unit. And so that easily is the same for this team. And so if you hadn't checked the episode title, we're going to be talking about the Eternals. Just in time for the film dropping. Yeah. And so we went to the we went to the
special early screening.
Right. We got a Marvel special. I can't talk. It's all that laughing. Oh my gosh. So we got invited to a special screening by Marvel for the film before its official release, and then I almost pulled a triple. And then I watched...
3 days in a row?
Yeah, I went to the fan event the night after, and I was gonna go again on opening night, but I decided to forego it. And then I ended up seeing it again anyway, so I've seen it 3 times. You've seen it...
Just the once.
Just the once.
But I still...
you retained really well. Yeah, and so before we get into it, I wanted to mention that, of course, they're created by comic book legend Jack Kirby. We've mentioned him a few times and probably many more to come. And of course, their first appearance was the Eternals #1, July 1976. And so, if you'll let me, Geoffrey, I'd like to go into Jack Kirby just a little bit.
Please. I mean, he's a legend, so yes.
He's a legend, yeah. And I feel like, with someone like Stan, for instance, so many people were... they know him, they were exposed to him and who he was and the kind of creator he was and who he created. But people aren't, I feel like general public are not as well versed with Jack Kirby, who is a king in his own right. And that is his middle moniker, if you will. But Jack Kirby himself, he was basically the co-creator of many of our favorite characters. He was born Jacob Kurtzberg, or Jacob Kurtzberg, also known as Jack Curtis. And he was widely known as one of the most prolific and influential creators in comics. And so he was one of those creators that didn't just work for one entity. He worked across the board for different publishers. After his time with Marvel, which was timely, which was also Atlas, Jack departed in the 70s around this time. And, unfortunately, it was under it was under the citing unfair treatment. Largely in the realm of authorship, credit, and creators' rights, which is something that people still endure to this day. And it's kind of why I think they're fueling the fire for studios and because it's a $1 billion industry now at this point.
It's crazy.
The least you could do is just add somebody's name in a movie credit. You know what I mean? And
100%.
and that was true with, I believe, one of the Batman films, and Bruce Timm, who is a really huge creator, a notable creator, finally got a credit in a film, and everybody's like, oh, finally. Yeah. And so Jack Kirby is kind of that same entity, and when he started getting credit in these films, it was a big deal. But Eternals is the first film that we see Jack Kirby, and there's not a lick of Stan Lee anywhere. It's just Jack Kirby. And I don't know if you noticed that, but it was created based on comics created by Jack Kirby, and that was it. And so that's pretty outstanding. And for the curious, of course, Jack is he's famous for Captain America, for Thor, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Hulk, all of which he created, under Marvel. Believe it or not, I have 2 trading cards that are related to these characters. I didn't think I was going to have anybody but Cersei, and the truth is, I only have Cersei.
Nice.
But I do have also another topic that we'll be discussing for this episode, the Celestials.
Ooh, yes.
So I can't believe I have these, but and so I mentioned this in another episode that I used to, when I was little, so I'm saying like 9 or 10, I used to call Cersei black-haired rogue.
I mean, yeah.
Because in this card, once, and of course we'll get into Cersei more along the way, but this trading card is from 1992 Marvel Universe. And this is when she's a part of the Avengers already. So, like many of our superheroes, they jump around from team to team. And, after the Eternals and also in between the Eternals and whatnot, Cersei eventually went to the Avengers. And so her suit is much different than what we see in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite honestly a copy of Rogue's outfit from the classic 1992 X-Men, just red and black.
I mean, she's wearing just a regular leather jacket,
right?
Too.
A leather jacket and everything. And does she have a headband? Yeah, she even has a headband in the back.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and she's just black-haired. And the Celestials, there are quite a few of those. But on this card, it's the 1992. Oh, it's the same set, actually, or a like set. And, it just features 4 of the Celestials.
I can't wait to talk about it.
There are many. So I'm not going to read the backs of those because we're gonna get into their details soon.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, and, so we'll get into those contrasts, but had you heard of the Eternals before this?
So I'm not even going to hesitate.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Definitely no.
Right. I mean, I feel like that's true for...
I mean, maybe Celestials, in a very super surface level, obviously with Galactus and all that kind of spiel. But no, never to this, not to the extent that the MCU has brought up about the Celestial being.
Because even with Guardians, and we've talked about Celestials at this point. We've talked about the Guardians quite a few times. The Celestials quite a few times because of that film and their mention in other movies. And so it's kind of interesting that they've breadcrumbed this film in a subconscious way. Maybe they were planting the seeds of the Celestials, and then you're kind of like Eternals. But, especially for new audiences, if you have no idea who they are, you're just kind of like, what? They kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. But, we'll get right into it. And, worth saying, this episode may contain mild spoilers. Very mild spoilers.
Very mild spoilers.
We're not going to go crazy.
Seen the movie.
Yeah.
Probably not the best to listen to this right now. But, we're going to jump around from the movie to the comic book history. But if you don't want to get spoiled at all.
Yeah. Wait a beat.
Yeah.
And of course, it's worth saying that the film will be on Disney Plus immediately after its theatrical run. So I believe that's mid-December.
Yeah.
So it'll be just in time for Christmas. So if you want to wait and hold back a bit, please do.
Go for it, yeah.
And then we will get into it. So,
all right, who are we starting with?
We're going to start with the Eternals themselves, first and foremost. Cool. So, for people who have no concept, no idea of what the Eternals are, in the books, they're labeled as Homo Immortalis, which is quite literally immortal man in Latin.
Nice.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that says right there. You're like, oh, so they're immortal. Okay, cool, got it. And not to be compared to, but there's a likeness to Homo Superior, which of course are mutants, which are X-Men. So it's kind of like, yeah. And so with the Eternals, we're kind of going to go down this new path of, we've gone down the street level, we've gone down the gods and stuff.
Yeah.
But
this is spectrum. Yeah.
The whole spectrum of all these different avenues of superheroes. But this is more of a historical mythological type of genre of superhero from Marvel. And so, we have Homo Superior, we have Homo Sapien, and now they're introducing Homo Immortalis, which of course are the Eternals. And so 1 million years ago, these beings known as the Celestials created 100 Eternals, which were an evolutionary branch of humanity gifted with powers and abilities to look after the human race throughout the ages, rarely interfering, and of course, they are reborn whenever they perish. And so right off the bat, with that, those mere sentences, you kind of get the vibe of, okay, so they're these immortal, powerful beings that can do things, they have a certain prowess to them. And that is reflected quite honestly in the trailer, which of course, Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao, or should I say Academy Award winning director Chloe Zhao, with a story by Ryan Firpo and Kaz Firpo. And very simply, it's explained by Cersei in the trailer. She says, we're Eternals from a planet called Olympia. We came here 7,000 years ago on the Domo, our starship, to protect humans from the Deviants.
Wow, that was good.
I mean, I'm trying.
Nice.
I didn't memorize it like you do, but I'm trying to get the Gemma Chan down.
Why didn't you guys help Thanos? We were instructed not to interfere. By who?
See, I can't do that. So, thank you, Jeff. Woo! Oh my God, I'm dying to do a supercut of just Jeff quoting everything. Oh my God. But fun fact for folks, in the comics, Domo is an Eternal who works on Olympia and answers to Zerus, a Prime Eternal. And so
so many names to keep
there's
up with.
So many.
Oh my gosh.
There's going to be a ton of name dropping, I'm going to try and explain it as much as I can. But yeah, and so like I said, it's quite literally that there are these Eternals that came from a planet. They're ages and ages old, and they protect humans. And so Olympia itself in the comic books was home to the Eternals, specifically from Earth. And so while their ancestral home was originally the city of Titanos, that is now modern day Northwest Canada.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So these in the comics, they were actually born.
Yeah.
Like they were born on on whatever.
Olympia.
Yes.
And then that territory is now Canada.
Okay.
So it wasn't like
that is a very different.
It's a bit different
from the movie.
It's a bit
because
different.
They do mention Olympia in the movie.
They do,
but it's
not
fake.
quite. Yeah, it's not quite
fake.
what you're led to believe.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's a very different. It's a very striking contrast because it's Canada. It's kind of funny. It's like, oh, Olympia, Canada. And yeah, and so we have, like in tradition with Marvel films, you have all these homages and Easter eggs to existing entities within the folklore, but they've just changed them up a bit. And so I feel like Olympia is kind of one of those things. But for Olympia, I mean, who's to say that that's what happens in the film is it? Like they have a chance to expand on it or like add to the story in some way. Yeah,
because the backstory in the film is like, they were, like in the comics, they're born out of Olympia, But then when you watch the movie, it's a made up backstory.
Right.
Like it's a made up backstory they
pre-programmed, if you will.
And in the movie, Celestials created Eternals.
Right.
Instead of Celestials were born and then trained to become Eternals.
Right. It's lore that they keep building on to this day. Because, again, 1976. So you think of how long they've been in the spectrum of things and how many iterations and rewrites and retcons that they must have gone through. And even, these cards are also kind of a good example. Like, we're going to talk about 10 characters, 10 primary characters.
10?
But
oh my god,
yeah, and that's just the Eternals, my friend. But like the fact that in 1992, when this card was made, there is only a Cersei. There's only a Cersei.
It's like the Filipino root beer dog.
That's Sarsi. Is it root beer, or I thought it was like Pepsi, but it was.
I think it's a root
It's like
beer.
It's like a Dr. Pepper.
I'm a horrible Filipino. Okay.
It's okay. So we'll go into the team. And I laid them out in no particular order, but I kind of wanted to jump around a bit. So let's start with Gilgamesh. Okay. And
we're gonna have to.
This is gonna be.
We're gonna have to jump around. Jeez.
Yeah, Gilgamesh. And so Gilgamesh debuted in Eternals number 13, July 1977. He's a hero in ancient Mesopotamian mythology by that same name. And, in the film, he's portrayed by Don Lee or Ma Dong-seok, his Korean name. He is labeled the strongest Eternal.
I mean, yeah, that guy's huge.
He's huge, and he's just like, whoo!
Holy.
Yeah, the fists on that guy. And he, it's said that in the MCU version is based on Gilgamesh from Sumerian mythology due to his strength and his kindness. So, compared to the comic book version in this instance, they're very similar. You'll find that as we talk about each one from, their origin, their comic book origin, they all seem to have this base suite of powers. That's kind of interesting because that's not, like with X-Men, I might talk about X-Men quite a bit off of the excitement of Disney Plus, by the way. But, like X-Men, for instance, they all have different powers. They're not all similar. They're not like a herd of the same kind. But with the Eternals in the comics, they do very much have these similar cosmic energy powers. Mm-hmm. But, and so that said, Gilgamesh in the film, he's very much a powerhouse. You see him conjure this cosmic, gauntlet.
Oh, a punch gauntlet, yeah.
And he can manifest this power on both hands, and he can plant himself rooted, and he can, in his boots type of thing. And so that's very similar to the books, but, Gilgamesh in the comics, beams come from his hands.
Oh, okay.
Instead of shaping. And so, he's, it's kind of like Icarus, not to jump too quickly, but yeah, he has, it's all propulsion. It feels like, and I don't know if that's something of the time.
Yeah.
Beams are cool.
Yeah.
Propulsion is cool.
Yeah.
And they want to show it in that manifestation of he's so powerful. Look at these cosmic rays coming out.
Makes sense.
But back to the suite of powers that they all seem to have. It always tends to include telekinesis, telepathy, and
usual.
then and so comic book Gilgamesh, he can fly. Imagine all of them just flying.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, birds of a feather and whatnot. And that brings us to Druig. And so in Eternals, the film, he's portrayed by Barry Keoghan. Is that how you say his name?
Is it Barry?
Barry
Keoghan? Yeah.
Is it Keoghan? Okay, Keoghan. Whose power is mind manipulation in the film.
He was great too.
He's so good.
Loved him, yeah.
We'll talk about it later, but my gosh, he was great. And the comic book character, his counterpart, debuted in Eternals number 11 of May 1977. And I kind of had some thoughts about where this character might have derived from, because there wasn't necessarily an immediate attachment to mythology.
Oh, okay.
Like you'll hear with the rest, but his name is kind of a giveaway. It's very close to Druid, which of course are a member of learned class among the ancient Celts. who were priests and teachers, judges, that such.
Okay.
So druids and maybe. And so, yeah, like I said, in the film, he's mind manipulation, but in the books, he has super strength against the suite of same powers. He has telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, and he has transmutation. Transmutation is essentially what Cersei can do.
That's what I was going to say.
That's basically Cersei. So he can manipulate molecules on top of everything else.
They
in
really
comics.
had to ground everybody for the movie.
Right.
Because,
Right. So it's kind of wild. It's like they took all of these, characters and just really wanted to make them even more unique than they already were.
Which makes sense on screen, because if you have like each hero that has like those kind of powers on screen, it'd be a mess.
It just gets repetitive, and it's like, well, then you have to base on their personalities.
It's just it would be just like a story mess.
Yeah,
nothing would make sense. Nothing would flow.
Right. Like
everything would be all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have Fastos, who, aka Phil Stoss. Did you know that was his last name? Phil Stoss.
No, I did not.
It's Phil Stoss. And so that's one of those things that they do in the comics quite a bit too, where they have a play on words. And it's kind of like, if you've been to Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, you see the tombstones and they have those like names.
Oh yeah, for sure. I forget. I can't think of
any right now, but
Just in Time.
Just in Time, for instance. Yeah. So Fastos in the film takes on the human named Phil Stoss. He's portrayed beautifully by Brian Tyree Henry.
Great.
He's so good. And, we see him as a weapons and technology inventor. And it's said that, in the recon that I did on Fastos, he's based off of Hephaestus from Greek mythology, who was the god of the forge. Okay. Which makes total sense. I was like, that's great.
How does the comic sound?
And it's just like you said, it's kind of like, well, okay, yeah, if in the books, Kirby kind of intended them to have all of the similar like base power in their, like at the heart and soul of each character, which unifies them, I guess. Yeah. It's neat that when they went about it in the MCU way, or at least in a modern comic way leading into MCU, that they would base them off of Greek mythology and Roman mythology, because it's so rich in lore, which is like great stuff, Yeah. And so for Fastos in the comics, he debuted in Eternals Volume 2, number 1 in October 1985. Okay. So he came a bit later. Yeah. And, it's worth saying that all of these characters look very different from what we see now. And Cersei is like just one thing. And this is not even the original Cersei. The original Cersei did wear green, and she had like a more, again, it's of the times. She had something that is more generic and simple, but also a little kind of Greek mythology looking. But for Fastos in the books, he had super strength, invulnerability, concussive force of energy manipulation from the eyes and hands, psionic abilities, and teleportation. So he was kind of a mixed bag.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Right? Totally makes, And
so to then change him up a bit and make him like a god of forge, like Hephaestus, that's pretty, it's like, we haven't, aside Tony Stark, we haven't really seen that in the MCU.
This man literally can create anything.
He can create anything.
You see it in the movie, like...
including a plow.
That's what I liked in the movie about, when they were sent to, like, kind of, like, guide humans and protect them and stuff. Mm-hmm. I love how through each era, like, he was only allowed to create a device or something only for the times. Yeah. Like when Ajax was like, that's too advanced for their time right now. Let's just,
let's pull it back.
So I like that, because like that means he has it already. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm ready to unleash like this early 2000s technology in like early 1700s.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, okay, what was your... what was your unexpected, like, kind of like happening when you were being introduced to these characters in the film? Did you feel like you got a proper introduction to each one and then a proper lead in to further into them as the film progressed? Like, how did it feel to you?
I think so, because they did a lot of non-linear editing in the movie. So like they would like
which could have gotten messy real quick, and it didn't. At least I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And it works out because I don't want to say that because it's like a mild spoiler. Actually, it's a big spoiler.
Don't do it.
I know, so I don't want to say that. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think the non-linear way of storytelling was pretty essential for this movie, just because there's so many characters.
Yeah.
And then because they jump back and forth, it really gives you time to kind of adjust with the characters and care about them. Either you love some, hate one, think like, oh, I kind of agree with that person, but maybe not. So I thought like the adjustment to the characters throughout the movie was just done pretty well, because I was really I was like how can I get invested in these characters? But that also falls half onto the actors themselves. Yeah. The way they portrayed that character made me feel like, cool, I care about this, or like, oh, I understand. So, for example, just off actor-wise, just made me fall in love with the character was Makari. And we'll get into her. Yeah. But like just the way that Lauren Ridloff plays her. Like, and she's obviously deaf, and she's like the amount of like character and like exuberance she was able to just like put on screen. It was just like, I love this character. Yeah. Her sense of humor just flows through. Yeah. And she cares a lot. Yeah. Another example is Druig, and like his understanding, and like in that one scene with the I forget what in Mesopotamia, like that whole thing. I understood his way of thinking, because it's like he has this ability, but he's like, why do we have to hold back XYZ? And I was like, I get it. Yeah. And it's like,
they present you with these like almost eternal. Nice. Oh, brain. They present you with these internal conflicts that you are probably having as you're absorbing these characters and the information that they're giving you about themselves and their powers. And it's like, and I've said this to pretty much anybody who's asked me, like, oh, what did you think of the film? I always say, it's like, I guarantee that the one surefire thing is that, one, who cares if people didn't like it? Just go watch it. Go watch it. If you're interested, go watch it. Don't rely on other people. But secondly, it's just the fact that you think you have a favorite just going in, like, oh, I saw the trailer. I like how that person looks, or I like the powers that person kind of has in the trailer, or I like Angelina Jolie. She's it. But then you get to know these characters in the way that, like Lauren Ridloff and Barry like present their personalities, and you're like, oh man, it's actually quite different.
Another great one was, we just spoke about it, was Fastos. Yeah. This is not really like a spoiler, it doesn't give anything away. There was during the Hiroshima bomb. Yeah. So, as you guys know, Fastos creates weapons just to kind of help Earth and whatever. He obviously, in the movie, they make it seem that he created the nuclear bomb. Yeah, the nuclear bomb, yeah. And he was hoping, that they would be like, it would be used for good. How it's used for good or in a positive way? But it was just supposed to help humans. And when he created it and he kind of put it out into the world, humans decided to use it for then Hiroshima happened, and then he was and that was his kind of event of like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to help humans anymore because and then you understand him, and it's kind of like it runs parallel with what's happening in the real world. Yeah. It's like humans do terrible things. His reaction is pretty like justified. Yeah. So I'm done. Yeah. I don't want to do this. Yeah. So it's a conflict. It's a conflict after another, and and especially for characters like these who are going through literal decades and centuries of time
and seeing different waves of humanity that they're essentially meant to protect and aid,
just life. They're supposed to
messing it up.
Yeah.
Just one after another.
Yeah.
Like a sloppy toddler.
Yeah.
Just like,
it's like, hey, like here are the keys.
Yeah.
Like just use it to open the door. And they're like, screw that door.
Yeah.
I'm going right here.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna break a window.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. And so speaking of Lauren Ridloff, Makari, superhuman speed. And so it's the first female-based speedster, if you will, that we see in the MCU. Yeah, which is like, okay, we've seen 2 Quicksilvers already. Not to be compared to, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Ralph Boner.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with The Flash, of course. But yeah, I think the first female speedster. And you mentioned something. Was it you? I was talking to somebody. I was talking to many people about Makari for many reasons, but that they filmed her powers differently than they did. Yeah.
Yeah. She filmed. They filmed her differently. First of all, like
Ridloff.
She looks really good.
Yeah.
Like on like. As a speedster or whatever.
She's so great. And she like running is actually one of Lauren Ridloff's like I'm softly standing Lauren now.
I was gonna say before I go back to that, like I totally went into the movie before watching it.
Yeah.
Cersei, Athena stan, like Angelina Jolie. I was like, yes, I love them.
Yeah.
I came out of the movie. I was like,
Makari.
I am a Makari stan.
Yeah.
She was amazing. But yes, I think
she loves to run. Yeah. So this is like perfect.
They actually filmed her running.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, no disrespects to, Ezra Miller. But she wasn't like standing in like a harness running in place.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like she actually ran and, and then the CG takes over and they did it in a way that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks great. I love the treatment.
There's the one fight scene in the movie where she's just going to town on somebody, like just in a fight. And
she does it twice.
Twice. Yeah. And I was just like, this is the best use.
It's so good
of speed in a fight that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and I love Quicksilver too. I love Aaron Tyler Johnson. I love like how he was portrayed in Age of Ultron, speedster wise. But I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think
in the context that it was amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
So Makari as a character, with the superhuman speed, is said to be based on Mercury from Roman mythology in the MCU. Mercury is the god of travelers and merchants and associated with the Greek mythology's Hermes. And so in mythology, Mercury also acts as a bridge between gods and mortals, often serving as a mediator. I guess Makari kind of does that in her own way in the MCU, and also the added aspect that she is deaf and the way that she communicates.
I was gonna say, is she deaf in the comics? Was there any?
Well, Makari is very, very, very different in the comics. So I'm not so sure. I guess Makari kind of serves as a mediator in the film as well, and and the fact that Makari in the film is deaf, portrayed as deaf, and the way that she communicates with the sign language and how she can, her powers, like she can sense the vibrations of the voice in a weird way too, and just the way that they kind of refine that means of communication. I guess it's similar to that of Mercury, and of course she's also the first deaf character to be represented in the MCU, soon to be followed by Echo, aka Maya Lopez, aka Aliqua Cox, who is going to debut in Hawkeye. Woo! And fun fact for you, they're friends in real life. So that's cool.
Small circle. I love that. Small circle,
yeah. So for Makari in the comics, it's a drastic difference. Makari as Mercury. So there are 3 iterations of this character.
Okay.
This is actually, Makari is actually one of the more dense of the team. And so as Mercury, Makari first appeared in Red Raven Comics #1, August 1940. 36 years, predating Eternals.
Wow.
36 years.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about that is that the publication history for Makari, even though it's different names, it's still threaded through like it's the same character. which isn't very common with many. Like, they're just like,
okay.
Yeah, like say, had they not done this, Mercury was one character. And then Hurricane, which is another one, is another character. But now, in this instance, Mercury first came, then was followed by Hurricane, who debuted in Captain America Comics #1. Captain America Comics #1 in March 1941. And then finally, as Makkari, Eternals #5, November 1976. So the character already had 30 years in the comics world before actually becoming the Makkari before an Eternal. And so, you know, with the comic book version, again, the same suite of powers of cosmic energy. You know, Makkari in the books also has psionics. So telepathy and telekinesis is a big thing for them. They all have mind powers, basically. Yeah. The mind powers, cosmic propulsions, those are the basis of the Eternals in the comics. With this core team. Super everything. And is also a genius in creating, designing, and operating vehicles and other modes of transportation.
I mean, damn, they're all so well-rounded.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting because it's a facet that you kind of almost see in Phastos in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they went, okay, Makkari's dope already. Maybe we take this comic book 100%. Route and then toss it to Phastos, maybe?
I'm sure in like the pitch meeting or whatever.
Gosh, can you imagine?
They're probably just like, look, so I know these characters in the comics, they have so many powers each.
Right.
I think we should split them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else there would be an unstoppable force.
Exactly.
And it would help. And it would help with storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. There's no sequel. They're not coming back. They finished the movie. They're good.
It's just it's 10 people or 8 people who are just like the most powerful beings in the world.
Yeah.
And if you were to put that on screen, it'd be like, well, where were they this whole time, kind of thing, you know? It's just like,
exactly. And an interesting thing about Makkari in the comics is that, like, their thing, quote unquote, because, you know, every hero has a thing. Their thing wasn't necessarily that they were fast or a speedster. Like, Makkari chose to work on being the fastest Eternal.
Oh, okay.
So it was something that Makkari just decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to be unique in this way, and I'm going to be the fastest Eternal that ever existed. Yeah. And so that I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, like, I didn't say this, but, like, growing up, you know, I knew them, but I didn't know each one as individuals. So this whole thing was a super learning process for me. I went back and I started reading the old ones, you know, from the get-go, and it was just like, man, I get it now. Like, they're kind of like a hidden treasure, and I get why Silver Age, comic collectors like this group, and why, if they saw the film and maybe didn't like it, I can understand, but also, like, it's such a great take on them that it's kind of like, why dislike it? But
and like another thing on like Makkari, like, and she's played by a deaf actress.
This is a Makkari podcast now.
Well, what I love about her power and why she's played by a deaf actress. Yeah. And like another one of her powers was like, obviously she's super fast, but then she has like this sonic boom that's like, you know, and it's like, that makes sense that she's deaf.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
You know
next.
what I'm saying? Like, it was like, well, what if you do that? Doesn't that like blow out your ear? Wouldn't that affect your ear? And it's like, well, now it's just like, it
makes total sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, because like if someone else had and they had perfect hearing, like, oh, they're doing this sonic boom, and that's like faster than like this. That's louder than this whatever. Yeah, than the sound of whatever. I'm horrible at science, but like it will blow your ears out. So then now that when you have it played by a deaf actress, the storytelling and the character background just makes sense. Yeah. And like, she's amazing, she's powerful, she can go as fast as she can. Yeah. As she wants. Yeah.
See, and that's the kind of exposition that needs not to be told and shown to you.
And you hope people will get it.
Right, you know? Exactly. Because it's true. Because, like, you know, and it's the same as how you said, like, the way that they present the powers of Makkari and the sounds that they couple with what you're seeing. Yeah. You have your mind. I mean, most minds would generally put 2 and 2 together and be like, "Oh, like
that's why she's able to have that power."
Right.
You know, like
it's just
someone
simple
who
science.
Had hearing, had that power, it'd be like it should affect you at some point. Yeah. But like, because it's her. It's like, it makes sense.
It's very interesting. So from there we'll go to Sprite. who's portrayed by Leah McHugh. And so in the film, we see Sprite has projection of lifelike illusions, and she can create things and manifest them out of essentially nothing. And she has the physical appearance of a 12-year-old child. It's said that Sprite is based on numerous sprites and tricksters from European mythology, which is, of course, that's innocently true. I mean, yeah, we see it even in the ending credits artwork, like there's a poster of Houdini and there's a sprite on his shoulder, like whispering in his ear. And it's like, oh yeah, you've seen this character in history, throughout history and fiction and what have you. And the sprite in the comics debuted in Eternals number 9, March 1977. And it's interesting because there's a quip in the movie that includes Peter Pan. We won't say it because it's nice to hear it in the film. Yeah. But in the books, apparently it was said that Sprite appeared in history. Sprite appeared to an author named J.M. Barrie and inspired him to write Peter Pan.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you've seen the film, that should resonate with you in some way. If you haven't, then there's a little Easter egg for you.
Her stories in the movie is pretty. It's pretty devastating.
Yeah, it's great.
We won't say how, but it's when you think about it and then you see it, you're like,
yeah,
she's going through it.
Yeah, it's you know what? And it just dawned on me, without spoilers, without context, it reminds me of Interview the Vampire, Kirsten Dunst.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the books, slight age difference.
11, that was my next question.
11-year-old appearance. But I do have a pop quiz at the end of this, which is semi-related. So that's why I'm avoiding certain particulars about things.
All right.
So Sprite is quite similar in the books. Illusionist.
So 11 in the books?
11 versus 12. Yeah. Okay. So more of a child, but not quite a tween.
Yeah.
Is that a Britney Spears song? God, I hate me.
I'm not a child. Oh, it is not yet a woman. It is. Wow. I'm good.
Oh my God. I seeded that one. Oh, free Britney.
She's free.
She's free. And so, how about a little Kingo? So, our boy Kingo.
Love.
Portrayed by none other than Kumail Nanjiani. Nanjiani. And so Kingo's very cool as well. It's another thing where you see it in the trailers. He can do the little pointy gun finger thingy. If you look closely, you see where the cosmic power is essentially manifesting through his veins.
Yeah.
And he can just... and he does the Hadoukens and Dragon Ball Z, explosions.
Super cool.
So cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so
the Asian guy did the Dragon Ball Z
I
thing,
know.
Huh? Love it.
Cosmic energy projectiles from his hands. He's obviously a Bollywood star because, yes. And I was listening to so I was telling Jeff before the show to kind of get into the vibe. I finally listened to the Eternal soundtrack on its own, after seeing the film so many times. And they have the song.
They have the song that they play?
They have the Bollywood song on the soundtrack. It's exquisite. That woman's voice is incredible.
Yeah. Is he a Bollywood star in the comics as well?
We're going to get into that. So before we jump into that, this good stuff. Oh, man, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
MCU Kingo is said to be potentially based off of Kingu from Babylonian mythology. See, they're jumping all across the globe.
Every single piece of mythology.
Yeah, and not just and again, it's something I appreciate that they're not only taking from Roman, they're not only taking from Greek, but they're going all around Macedonia, Babylonia.
Much about that. Much mythology.
Yeah, I used to be in a mythology nut when I was little. I loved it because of my namesake. My dad was like, "Oh, you're named after Princess Diana and Diana, goddess of the hunt," and I was like,
and then boom, it just launched you into a wormhole.
Oh yeah,
just
over. And so, So, potentially, King Go is potentially based off of King Gu, who in Babylonian mythology received great power from an armor breastplate and then eventually perished, but his blood then helped create the first humans.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't
like Adam and Eve stuff.
Very
right there.
Adam and Eve. Yeah, very Adam and Eve. I personally don't quite see that correlation with this version of the character.
Yeah.
But it's a good assumption. King Gu. Okay, yeah. Cool. And so in the books, King Go Sunen.
Okay.
Debuted in Eternals number 11, May 1977, hailed from the Japanese prefecture of Hokkaido.
Japanese.
He's Japanese in the comic books.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is a far cry. Well, not so far.
Yeah, but
he's not.
It's a switch a little bit.
It's a switch. It's for sure a switch. And so, to answer your question, he is not a Bollywood star in the comic books.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he does have similar attributes to King Go's story in the MCU.
Cool.
Being that he's a film star. Well, so it's like a Japanese equivalent. And his powers are like the rest of the comic book versions with all the cosmic, all that stuff. However, the comic book version of Kingo, Kingo versus Kingo, he prefers to practice fighting as a samurai. And so he uses daisho, which are katana and wazakashi.
Uh-huh.
So
Interesting.
So like Makari, they have these powers, they can do these things, but they're like, I choose to do this.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's got a very, 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 like, it's super cool. This is a super cool background for him. And I didn't expect that. Like, I've seen Kingo before, but it didn't occur to me that it was that the historical background, that the tradition of that character was just a completely different culture.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
That's super cool. Yeah. And it's like the way that they went, it's like, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah. And, again, of the times, like maybe in the 70s, Japanese culture was it was kind of like a new venture in this way to kind of explore it in a superhero term. Whereas in modern day, like we haven't seen very many, of the other Asian countries superheroes, and like Kumail is a superhero. That's crazy. So to bring the culture and just the dialogue of that into the MCU the way they did, I think they did it great.
I mean, it just works.
Yeah, it worked, right? Like you would never think like they just completely changed it. Yeah, he's great. Oh, he's so good. And then we have Ajak, who is portrayed by Salma Hayek. And so in the MCU is the healer, the bridge between Eternals and Celestials, and is said to be based on Ajax of Greek mythology, who is said to be Ajax the Great of Homer's Iliad.
Okay.
So that's another deep dive into Greek mythology, but essentially a very strong character. And in the comics, Ajak debuted in Eternals number 2, August 1976. And I love these little nitty-gritty details that they give some of these characters, because to see the MCU like equivalent makes it more fun. So Ajak in the comics was an archaeologist, strength and brawn, comparable second to Achilles. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's strong. And so it's kind of like thinking, okay, well, they took brute strength and changed it into just like a feminine sort of like strong, able-bodied, independent, strong of like character. Yeah. Like they just transfixed it a bit, Yeah. And then again, same powers, the telekinesis, telepathy, the cosmic stuff.
Team.
Yeah.
It's unstoppable.
Plus the molecular manipulation. So only a couple of them got that. The transmutation, right? But in the books, Ajak can rearrange molecules of mass up to 990 pounds.
Okay.
450 kilograms. The period of manipulation lasting up to a minute. So.
Okay.
Yes, which is something we kind of see in the film, but from Cersei.
Yes.
So again, they're doing the thing.
I mean, yeah, because all Ajax can do in the movie is she's a leader. She's a leader. Like emotional leader. Yeah. She's kind of guiding everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, she instills everybody's kind of like confidence and, you know, like this is who you are type of thing. Mm-hmm. But she's also the healer of like of everybody. Right. So that's crazy.
And so it's kind of like you wonder, okay, well, if Ajax in the comics can rearrange the molecules and such, does that kind of equivalent of like healing? Yeah.
Maybe in a way.
Yeah. So that's an interesting little comparison there. And then we have Thena.
I was like, how many do we have left? Oh, we have this many. And then like you mentioned someone that I wasn't thinking of, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're getting into them, man.
Thena, your girl.
We have Thena, my girl, my queen, of course, portrayed by Angelina Jolie. And she's presented as an elite warrior, which is very obvious in the trailer. You know, immediately got some like Gamora vibes. I was like, oh, it's like Gamora, but not, because, you know, just the swords play and just the way she moves is very graceful. And maybe she's far more graceful than Gamora even, but, you know, she's got weapons forged of the cosmic energy, and easily said she's based off of Athena of Greek mythology, the goddess of wisdom and war. And so to do a quick little nugget on Athena in Greek mythology, she was born of Zeus's skull and thus possesses boundless knowledge. Though she can be aggressive, she also rules over peace and handcrafts. So she's handy. Which is very much how Thena is in the movie. Yeah, she crafts her own weapons out of cosmic power. So that's pretty awesome.
I still can't believe they got Angelina Jolie.
When they announced, because I was at D23 when they brought them all out, and I was like, they got Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie. And
people have to realize,
that's incredible.
Like listeners, you have to realize, like how hard that is to get those tentpole of actors to be in a comic movie and
an ensemble. Yeah, like I feel like right,
definitely
the bartering that used to happen was like, oh, we'll give you a solo film, you'll get a 3-film deal, you'll hard. Top billing each time.
It's hard because there are some actors who feel like oh, if I'm part of an ensemble, like how much time am I gonna get on screen? Right. Like how important am I? You know, some actors really want to feel important.
Exactly.
And I think when you watch the movie, I can happily say every single character is important.
And they get great representation.
They get great time on screen. Yeah. You feel like everyone has a role and they're not just in the background.
Exactly.
At any time.
Exactly. And, you know, fun fact about Angie is that I briefly read somewhere in one of her... I briefly read somewhere in one of her interviews that when she was first approached about the film, she was like, oh, yeah, sure. And she thought that the role was a tiny role. She thought she wasn't going to be in it much at all. She thought she was going to be in it for like 10 minutes, maybe 20. And it ended up...
Which is technically a lot of screen time.
It's a lot of screen time, yeah. So whatever the smallest version is, she thought she was getting that. And I was like, first of all, honey, do you know who you are? And then second, like... It's completely not that at all. And even though, you know, it's very clear that well, maybe it's not so clear, but you know, the kind of the tent poles of the film, the lead characters, if you will, are Icarus and Cersei. Mm-hmm. She still has a prominent role in the film.
And she kind of has her own side story going too. Yeah,
exactly.
Which I'll talk about this after we discuss all the characters. But then I want to talk about all the little small relationships and friendships each Eternal has. Yeah, but we'll talk about that after.
For sure.
We discuss every single character.
So very much like Makari, Thena has gone through some iterations in the comic books, and so she first debuted as Minerva. In Red Raven Comics #1, August 1940, with Makari as Mercury. So they started out as these very mythological, characters.
Isn't Minerva the character that Gemma Chan played?
See, I knew you were going to say that. But no, because that's different.
It's totally different.
It's a different character, and even the spelling is different. They pulled the hyphenated. So Minerva is Thena, and then Minerva with 2 N's is Gemma Chan in Captain Marvel. And so, Thena jumped from Minerva to Thena in Eternals number 5, November 1976. Then Corona in Apocalypse Now number 1, February 2000.
Jeez.
So comic book version of Thena in history, of course, again, based off of Athena, the Olympian goddess of wisdom and war. Mm-hmm. And then, again, same powers, same telepathy, same cosmic everything, plus teleportation and flight.
I mean, it's a broken record at this point.
It's like Kirby was like, all right, I'm going to give you this pack of Oreos. This is the Eternals as they are. They're all the same.
And they're all double stuffed.
But they're awesome, delicious, America's favorite cookie.
I love Oreos.
Heck yeah.
There hasn't been an Oreo that I don't like in a double stuffed pack.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's basically the Eternals.
King Kirby did well.
We are king and queen of analogies on this show, ladies and gentlemen.
So good, so good. And so, to what you had just said about the relationships and such, we'll get into that a little later. But Thena also has a very interesting relationship that we'll discuss.
In the books?
In the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that brings us to, speaking of, Icarus.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I said Icarus in another episode. I'm so sorry. It was totally Icarus. Portrayed by Richard Madden. I just love that we got 2 Starks in one movie. I, with many other Game of Thrones fans, were just like, wait, did they just... They did. And Jon Snow was my favorite. So, and then Robb Stark was my second favorite. So I was just like, I'm good.
Really, you guys are great in that show.
Yeah.
Join this movie.
Yes, my gosh. And I'll get into that later. But so Icarus himself, like you said, you see it in the trailer. Short version, he's Superman.
Yes.
Which I don't agree with. There could be 2 kinds of the same kind of character. It's not necessarily Superman, but
True.
I'm going to eat my words in a few minutes. Flight, cosmic energy beams from his eyes, based clearly on Icarus of Greek mythology, with the obvious analogies in the film, wings, etc. And so from Wikipedia, Chloe Zhao is quoted to have even said, her take on Icarus was directly influenced by Zack Snyder's interpretation of Superman in Man of Steel 2013.
She said that.
She literally said that.
I think I remember, yes.
Really? Yeah. Saying it left a strong impression on her for its very authentic and very real approach, which I was like, okay. See, and I bet you all the fanboys that are comparing them don't know that. And it's like, well, okay, if it's similar, well, it's because she was so influenced and inspired by that.
Man of Steel was a great film. I don't care what anybody says.
Agreed. I feel like one of 20 people who like that movie.
I enjoyed it. I thought the storytelling and the character of Clark Kent in that movie was amazing. I was like, and also, is this what the DCEU is about to look like with Zack Snyder?
Also, Lumberjack Clark.
Oh, yes.
Just very Logan vibes.
Justice for Zack Snyder. All right.
But I enjoyed it too. I think at the end, quick segue, at the end it kind of got a little crazy because the CG went nuts.
Sure, of course.
But the movie is great.
But the heart was there.
Yeah.
That last fight between him and General Zod and Superman being like, I'm not a killer, but you are pushing it, buddy. That self-inflicted conflict is enough of okay.
Yeah.
Even though
the humanity of
the character, even though Superman's the most unreal, powerful superhero.
The triple stuffed Oreo.
There's still some human in it, enough for you to relate to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's why I'll keep saying it. As long as he's there, they're sleeping on him. They're sleeping on him. Like, come on, give the man some material, or Marvel can just bring him in as Captain Britain.
I know you've been wanting that.
I want Captain Britain. I love all these weird characters that people don't necessarily gravitate to, and Captain Britain is one of them. Yeah. Again, quick thing: he's Psylocke's brother. He's a twin. He's Captain America, but Britain. And he likes tea, and he's in Excalibur. So. Yeah, but see. In Excalibur, the team Excalibur, which is like this. The Eternals can directly correlate to Excalibur if we really, really wanted it to.
I mean, we'll see.
It sure could.
But yes, I do get Zack Snyder, the Superman vibes from for Icarus. Real. And that's okay.
And it's fine. Like, what's wrong with that? Yeah. That's okay. And they even make Superman jokes in the film, so it's all good. But I will say, like Makari, I don't know what they did differently or what they didn't do, but the way that they treated Icarus and his powers, there's something about the way he flies in this film.
That's different.
It's so smooth. And I don't know if that's Richard Madden or if it's just something that they're doing with the way that they do the production.
Maybe.
But he just, it was so seamless to me. I don't know what it was.
Maybe they have him on a harness. Yeah. And then it's smooth enough so then they can just segue into full CG.
I guess so. Great. Whew, he was
but
good.
Like we said, they did it amazing with Makari. Yeah. So they got to do it well with Icarus flying.
I can't wait to see the assembled for this film.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. I love those. Yeah. Oh, they're so good.
So Icarus in the books, Eternals #1, July 1976. Fun fact for you. Icarus was the only Eternal from this film featured in that issue. So the rest of them, they're not even in it. It's just him. And secondary fun fact for you, like Phil Stoss, Icarus also had a...
Oh, Icarus.
Yeah. What is it, Jeff? Give me your best. Give me your best assumption. It is!
And it wasn't even a pop quiz question.
Ike Harris, yeah. So in the issue, his name is Ike Harris.
Got it.
My gosh, yes. Oh, you're so good. Sheesh. So yeah, like the MCU, very much based off of Icarus from history. I can't get over this. Oh my God, Ike Harris.
Yes.
Ike Harris strikes again. He's truly one of the most powerful Eternals. Second only to the aforementioned Eternal I mentioned at the top of the show, Zurus, who, by the way, is Thena's father in the books.
So that makes him...
Think of the Eternals family tree now.
That makes him Thanos' uncle?
Yes. So, which we're going to get into a little later.
100%.
But yeah, so Zurus is Thena's father, and so it's said that Zurus is essentially the Marvel equivalent of Zeus, who is Athena's father.
Geez.
So there you go. There's your comparison for that. And then once again, the double stuffed Oreo has all those powers. But on top of that, on top of the stuff that we've already mentioned, he has regeneration, teleportation, etc. Yeah, they're so powerful. Like you can't even fathom. And I feel like that's the reason why they weren't so mainstream for quite a while. Just because it's like, what do you do with characters that are so invincible?
They kind of win 10 out of 10
and they don't die.
Yeah.
They're reborn each and every time. So now we have a pop quiz, an actual pop quiz. Okay, and these are going to come back to back. There's 2 in a row, but I have, we have one more character to talk about. So she's going to be your buffer. But okay, here we go. Speaking of Icarus.
Yes.
Geoffrey.
Yes.
At what speed does Icarus fly? Miles per hour. Multiple choice.
Cool.
Is it 200 miles per hour?
Okay.
850 miles per hour?
Jesus.
669,600,000.
Damn it, Dai. What the hell? What?
You know me, bro. You know how I do. I gotta give you an easy number, and then I gotta give you 669,600,000 or 490 miles per hour. Go. Let Icarus lead the way.
Like I want to say 669.
669,600,000.
That's so fast.
It's very fast.
No shot. That's a real speed.
I mean, subconsciously, maybe I was planting that because, like,
now you're gonna throw me off for like these other numbers, which are the three most realistic numbers.
Speaking of, like, how smooth he transitions.
I was like 200, cool. 800, okay. 669 million. I was like, okay, where
669,600,000.
Okay. And the last one was
490.
490. What's the speed of sound, right? Like there's no way they can. God. I'm going with. That is pretty fast though, because a plane goes like 300, I think, miles an hour. But sometimes they're not smooth rides.
Yeah. No.
Turbulence.
Oh God.
Sucks.
Yep.
But he flies fast. When seeing the film, I'm like, where the hell did he come from? I will say 600. Whatever, the fourth choice.
490.
490, sorry.
So 490.
Yes.
He was looking me dead in the eyes, like trying to read me just now. Yes. 490. Final answer.
Because 800 seems...
Final answer, 490. Okay. Well, Geoffrey, I will clarify first and foremost that 669,600,000 is the speed of light. So that is not the correct answer.
Okay.
But Icarus flies at 850 miles.
Damn it!
So he's very, very fast. He's fast. Very, 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 very fast. So yes, unfortunately, you failed.
Whatever. The Icarus one.
You got Icarus. That alone. You won. You won. We're good. It's just uphill from here.
And I had no knowledge of that at all. I literally guessed.
Icarus. Okay. And then that leaves us with Cersei.
Baby girl.
Gemma-chan. Portrayed by Gemma-chan. AKA Geoffrey's wifey. Who's number one in your book right now?
As in, like, just MCU?
In fictional, not even fictional, in your non-realistic female relationships. Who's number one? I have to say that because Sam is clearly number one. Sam, it's not Zendaya, it's you, I promise.
Oh, man.
But who is it? You've got a lot. He's standing a lot of women. We're talking about this earlier because...
Are we talking about just like celebrities?
No, Marvel ladies. Your Marvel ladies.
Oh. I think.
Ooh.
That's tough, man. I
mean, good luck with that one, buddy.
I think Wanda's still there.
Really?
I think Elizabeth Olsen is still there.
I mean, I can't blame you. Look at her.
I mean, because the first Disney Plus series, Marvel, and like the way just her, the way she was stemmed out, and her growth, her power.
Okay,
I was
fair
just
enough.
Like,
but see, the rest of them, they're all new. Yelena is new.
Yes.
Cersei is new. Kate is new.
Makari
is new. So of the newbies that you don't have history of, you've had years with Scarlet Witch.
I have had years.
You've gotten to bond with her.
Me and her have dated for a while now.
Exactly. So who of the newbies? See?
Well, here's the thing about Gemma. We've talked about this a lot. Mm-hmm. Her elegance.
Yes.
Like what she brings, not just her as a person, but the elegance that she brings. Her voice is just oozing.
So great.
Is like like elegance, grace.
Yes.
Like when I first was introduced to her in Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, I was like, oh
everybody,
my God.
yeah. She was.
Yeah.
I remember before I had even seen the film, you know, a friend of mine at the time was like, have you seen Crazy Rich Asians? And I was like, no, I haven't seen it yet. And she was like, watch it, and I promise you, you're gonna fall in love with. I forgot her name in the movie, but she's like, you're gonna fall in love with the character that Gemma Chan plays. And I was like, why? Like I thought immediately, like my superhero, like like crazy, action movie brain was like, ooh, is she scandalous? Like I thought, but she just ended up having such a presence about her. Yeah, that I was like,
super simple, super subtle.
Yes,
but like when she walks into a room, it's her. Yeah. And I'm like, so like every time when I saw that even on screen when she's playing Cersei, I'm just like, yeah, it just oozes off of her. Yeah. But obviously every character has that, that sense, like, but it's different for each person, like obviously Angie has like, you can just tell she drips this like different like aura. Same thing with Makari, same thing with Spry, and Selma Hayek. But it's like her Gemma's voice for me, like her stature, I'm like, But I think Makari's a hard second or third.
Just wonderful women.
Yeah,
portraying
and I
amazing
love
characters.
Too,
yeah.
Because I love her goofiness and everything.
Yeah,
but
but so Cersei is wifey. So. Cersei.
Yeah, but after watching the movie, also Makari's definitely probably top 3 of like all this new.
I love
Marvel
her so much.
Stuff coming out.
Oh my gosh. So yes, Gemma Chan, portrayed by Gemma Chan, in the film, like we briefly mentioned, manipulates and transforms matter through physical contact, which is basically called transmutation. She is a museum curator at NHM London, which I'm very salty about. I was like, man, that's her cousin. So for listeners who aren't aware, I work at a natural history museum. It is not London. We're not affiliated, but I like to call them my cousin across the pond. Sure. And so like the minute they showed the front, I was like, oh, the social media people are probably having a field day right now. Like, this is so cool. Jealous for all the right reasons, I promise. And it's said that Cersei, the character, is based on Circe, spelled Circe, of Greek mythology, a powerful sorceress who can transform humans into animals through combination of magic and drugs.
Whoa, that's interesting.
It's an interesting derivative. Yeah. I see the similarities a little bit.
The drugs part threw me off.
Yeah, I know. I was like, drugs?
I was like, wow.
I'm assuming they mean like, like of the time drugs.
Sure.
Like we're talking about like, like
Wolfsbane
and blah, blah, blah. And Toad.
Psychedelics, I guess.
Psychedelics,
That's what I was going towards.
Right. And versus the comic book version, as Circe debuted in Strange Tales number 109, June 1963, same year as the X-Men. No, Spider-Man, X-Men. One of those. It's one of those.
Okay.
It's X-Men because how I remember that? Oh, this is so dumb. I remember that because Cyclops is 6'3".
Nah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is all I have to say about it. Same year as the X-Men. And as Circe debuted in Eternals number 3, September 1976. So again, Icarus, only one that made it from the get-go. Yeah. And which is funny because then, like I said, Circe kind of eclipsed him in popularity. But the comic book version of Circe, again, same powers as the rest, but the focus with her is the transmutation, including sentient beings. And in addition to that, is also multilingual, a fashion designer, and a great dancer. Huh. Which they kind of cover. All of those they kind of cover in the film.
The dancing thing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's nice. And that, of course, was not a spoiler. It's just a simple observation. If you're watching the film, you will see these facets of the character. And again, it's like really nice that they've taken these things from the books and just kind of softly put them in. And they seem very organic. But then you're like, oh, she speaks multiple languages. She's a great dresser, and she's a dancer. Oh, sick. And of course, you know, comparatively, they also took many visuals from the comic books and adapted them into the film. So like some of the, and you'll see it in issue number 1, like some of the artifacts that they show in the credits, just for show, nothing really pertinent. They're pulled from direct artwork of the issues. Yeah, it's really cool. And we received listener questions about this team. Now that we've talked about each and every one of them in some capacity, it's a lot of team member factoids for you there. So our favorite listener, Ariel Tima. No, I'm kidding. Everybody's our favorite listener. I love every single one of you.
No.
But Ariel is very, very vocal. Thank you, Ariel. We do love you. She asked, did you have a favorite character prior to seeing and didn't change after viewing? And so we just kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
Again, I went in being like, Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
I don't care who she's playing. She's going to be my favorite. And speaking of, when she was first cast, I remember, along with the rest of the world, thought she was cast as Cersei. Because Cersei was such a prominent character. Didn't even think, oh, maybe she's playing another character. But she ended up being Thena. And I was like, I'm going to like Thena. And then Kit Harington came along and I was like, oh, I'm going to like Kit. Because I like Kit too. And then everybody came in. And then Gemma Chan came in. And I was like, oh no, they're all great. So to answer that question, I mean, after watching it, it did change. It changed for me. I liked Gemma a little more than I thought I was going to. I loved Angie just as much. I loved everybody in every single character. I loved them all. But Makkari took it home for me.
That is something me and Dai both agree on.
Yeah.
When we walked out of the theater, I was like,
Makkari.
I think I like Makkari a lot. Yeah. And Dai was like, yes.
Yes.
So I was like, sick.
So good.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's the way that Lauren Ridloff portrays the character and lets you get a sense of who that character is through her way.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love all the actors that play it, but I came out appreciating more Makkari, Druid, and Fastos.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, these are such great characters. They're played by great actors, and they're just sold.
Yeah. So well, too. And then, after the second time, Druid started to come up a bit, just because I feel like Druid gave off, and while doing my research for this episode, I came upon older articles from 2019, just after they had gotten cast and such. And people were like, they took it was really interesting to see it unravel when people started to make their predictions about how the movie was going to be and how it was going to go. Yeah. And with so much no, this is how it's going to be. And it's like, no.
Sure.
And it completely didn't end up that way. But old articles were like, Druid is going to be the villain of this movie. And I was like, looking at it now, I was like, what? No, not even close. Not even close. No, and I feel like it's built on the perception of he's a darker character. He wears black and red. And it's just it's not even true at all. Of course, they have these conflicts within each other and in themselves. But I feel like Druid was perhaps one of the most grounded characters of this lot.
I can agree.
Right?
I'd agree.
And I think that's what also helps with his connection with Makkari.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen the movie, when you do, you'll understand.
Yeah, and I just think they're so good. So good. And then a follow-up question from Andrew, who is another one of our MVPs.
What we got?
When I first read this question, I just immediately started laughing. Who is your least favorite and why is it Icarus? I mean, you can't answer it without saying too much about the film.
For spoiler reasons, we can't
fully
legally answer that.
Exactly. So we're not going to spoil that for anybody. But I just thought it was worth saying. And I don't know. I mean, but an easy way to answer that is very simply, we've seen that superhero. Power-wise, we've seen that superhero.
Yes.
Not that it makes him boring, not that it takes away from his character at all, but he is, if we're going to say everybody's awesome, he is kind of my least favorite.
So we've seen, like you said, we've seen that type of superhero before.
Yeah.
But it's his stance and characteristics and way of thinking is what's incredibly different.
Yes.
And a total step to the left.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah. It's wild, right? Like, it's just one of those things that you think, again, it's like Druig. You think you have an idea of what this character is going to be.
And then you watch it, you're like,
oh.
And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two different ways of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And which is like totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still love Icarus. I think Icarus
He's great. I think Richard Madden portrayed him pretty well.
I'd love Richard Madden so much. He's so good. And I love the little stripe in his hair. It's funny. So on the totem pole of least to favorite,
this is like a favorite child question.
It really is. And honestly, Icarus for me is kind of in the middle. Actually, I think he's probably in the middle. It's so hard.
I don't know if I have a least favorite.
It really is hard.
I feel like even if I would say, like, let's say I say,
it's like a tiering system.
Yeah, let's say if I say even if I said Kingo, I'll just come off as racist. Like,
oh no!
But I love Kingo.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, that love is still like 900,000%. It's just that when everybody is at 1 million, it's like how do you level?
Okay, I think I'll probably say. I mean, I hate copying out, but I hate like. I don't want to say least.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
that's not the verbiage. I don't want to
say least.
Right.
But it's just like, but then once you see the movie, you understand. Okay. I would probably say on the lowest of the high totem pole. I'd probably say Sprite.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just because the conflict that ensued.
Yeah.
And it's like.
Yeah.
But then again, it's out of her hands.
Yeah.
There's this internal conflict.
Yeah.
That she can't.
Sprite's internal conflict.
That she can't control.
Yeah.
And it sucks because you really feel for her.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm so sorry that you weren't able. To have that opportunity.
Right.
But you got to think bigger picture.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'd probably go with Sprite.
It's not even nearly as. I mean, not that it's easy, but it's not easy, quote unquote, like it would be to be like, who's your favorite Avenger? Like, of the 6. Like, you could be like Captain America.
Or Iron Man.
Or Iron Man. And you're like, oh, even them, they're kind of the same. But you already know, like, Hulk or, I was going to say the Archer. Hawkeye. Or perhaps at the bottom. Whereas for me, I'm like, Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's my favorite. And so it's different for everybody, and I don't know. I don't know that I could name a least favorite. I feel like it's more like Cersei, Thena, and Dane were my top tier, and then my mid tier were Makari, Druig, Icarus, and kind of Kingo, and a little and then I start going in like a little bit of now, like it's tough. I can't. It's tough. Yeah. So sorry, Andrew. We like Icarus. So, are you ready for your pop quiz?
Crap.
This one's a doozy. Because you also get a bonus pop question, quiz question, pop quiz question.
Let's do it.
All right. In the spirit of gender equality, there have been a few character gender swaps in the MCU. Which of the Eternals on this version of the team were originally male
Ajax.
In the comic?
I know Ajax was supposed to be a man.
All right, Ajax.
I know that.
There's 2 more.
You're actually gonna name all of them? Damn, I thought I had that in the bag. I know, because like Salma always talks about that.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I remember that interview too. I remember she was like, "Oh, I heard it was a male character in the comics, and now it's a girl."
I was like, okay.
I love Selma so much.
Ajax.
Yeah. Okay.
Are they all? It was men first, and then it's,
correct.
Okay.
They have been gender swapped, if you will.
So at least we can, some deducing a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, isn't? No, I'm looking at it. I'm literally looking at it. I was about to say.
Yeah. Seriously staring at you.
I was about to say. I was like, wait, never mind.
Cersei's here.
I can deduce that. Mm-hmm. So that leaves Sprite, Makari, Fina. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it can't be Fina. Because it's based off the goddess Athena. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to go Makari.
Okay.
And then so Ajax, Makari. Mm-hmm. What's the other? It's just Sprite? Oh, yeah, it might be Sprite.
Or it could just be those two.
You said 3.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, I'm tripping. Oh, okay. So then it's Sprite and Makari.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. Okay, Sprite or Ajax. Makari.
He's thinking.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Illusions. I mean, they're both like. Yeah, it's not like they're both gender specific.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of these characters also, is that, you even if you had never known who had a particular gender in the film, it almost, versus the comics, it almost doesn't matter because it doesn't change.
It doesn't matter as long as they portray the character with the right amount of heart and
exactly.
Ajax and
Makari and.
So there is a third one?
I don't know, is there?
Oh, no.
Come on, Jeff.
I want
either final answer or one more guess.
I do want to. I think. Wow, you were very smart to leave that stuff out of it when you were explaining the characters. I say Ajax and Makari.
That's
two.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well. If you had guessed Sprite, you would have been 100%.
Oh my god! Because the reason I left out Sprite.
Yeah. Because is it the Peter Pan thing?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So in the comics, Makari is male, Ajax is male, as is Sprite. So Sprite was a little boy.
A little boy.
Yeah, and it's kind of like not to generalize, but that's kind of where the look of Sprite in the MCU was adopted from in the first place, with the short hair, and it wasn't like an effeminate character, and it wasn't. It was kind of gender neutral, to be all honest.
If you want.
Yeah, it's very gender neutral, which is pretty cool, especially for an illusionist. But yeah, so those 3 characters were male gender before being swapped for females.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's great. But like I said, there's a bonus.
Oh, that's right.
A redemption round. So on the heels of that, can you name 1, 2, 3? I'll give you a number. Can you name 4? The only other 4, mind you, other gender swapped characters in the MCU.
Wow, now you're making me go back 11, 12
Come
years
on,
of
MCU
history.
boy. Let's go.
Are these main characters?
I can't tell you that. but they are prominent characters that had ample screen time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That were just gender swapped.
They were just gender swapped.
Okay.
And I will say one is from Netflix.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've been so easy on you lately.
I know.
Felt like
These are hard. Because I have to turn back the wheel and be like, well. Oh my god, I can't even think of a character. This is messed up.
Do you want me to at least give you the title of the film?
Can you give me some hints?
Okay.
Give me some process of deduction.
One is from Captain Marvel.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I want to guess. I'm like, is that right?
Guess. Guessing is better than not guessing at all.
I want.
It's like he leans into it and then he pulls himself back.
I want to say Marvel.
Oh! Yes!
Yes!
So Marvel is actually male in the books, the original Captain Marvel, and in the MCU is portrayed by Annette Bening, the main villain, if you will.
Ah.
So that was male character. Okay, next one. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ooh. Oh, that's a tough one.
There's quite a few people in that film.
That's a tough one. Because everyone has great, like, there's a great split.
Yep.
You have Hope.
Adam joke there. Adam splitting. But anyway, sorry.
You have Hope, you have Janet, you have Hank, Scott. Oh my God, this is tough. Louise, man. I can't.
No? Look, you got Icarus. Icarus is keeping you afloat. You've won this episode. Come on.
On this Yellow Jacket?
Yellow Jacket was in the first film.
Oh, you said Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yes.
I thought you said Ant-Man.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Movie specific.
Okay. Ooh. Hey, yeah. Okay.
It might help you to know that Ghost, portrayed by Hannah John Kamen.
God damn.
So the main.
I couldn't even think of the villain. Jesus.
Yeah. So Ghost is a guy in the comics as well. Okay. This one, you should if you don't get this one.
Dude, I'm rested. The Ike Harris thing really just kind of like
Doctor Strange.
threw me off again. Oh.
Doctor Strange.
No. Oh, okay. Wait, yeah. Ancient One.
Yeah. I didn't realize what I was doing until I was like, oh, it's too late. But yes, the Ancient One, portrayed by Tilda Swinton, was also male in the comics.
Okay.
And last but not least, from Jessica Jones. Oh, yeah. 669,600,000.
Oh, God.
All over again.
What? It's been so long since I've seen that show.
I know, it's a tough one.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to go out. I'm going to say the baddie.
Who's the baddie?
No, is it?
Are you talking about Doctor Who?
Yeah, no, yeah. I was. But it's not. That's definitely not.
Okay.
True. Who and Jessica? Oh, it's been so long since I've seen the show.
And there's not even that many characters in Jessica Jones.
It's messed up. Her. The blonde chick? No. The blonde chick?
Hellcat?
Hellcat? Obviously not. Never mind. You say Hellcat. No.
You give up yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Jerry Hogarth, portrayed by Carrie-Anne Moss. The lawyer? Lawyer? I guess lawyer? Yeah, the lawyer.
Oh, the lawyer.
The lawyer.
The messed up lawyer.
Yes.
The lesbian.
Yes. That was originally a male in the comics.
I would have never gotten that.
Yeah. Jerry, I loved the play on the name. They changed it from like the traditional Jerry to Jerry Jeri. So they've basically, given the power to the women with all of these roles, which is kind of like awesome.
Oh yeah.
Love it. I'm here for it. But yeah, you did pretty good. No, Marvel was a big one. I feel like people like it doesn't resonate with them that is even Marvel.
Yeah.
And people, you know what I mean? And like for Annette Bening to be playing a character like was gender swapped is kind of like an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But she's another name that I just didn't expect to see in the MCU. Let's be frank. But you know who I'm salty about? Not to go back to DC World. I was going to say Disney World. I can't believe that they have Helen Mirren in Shazam 2. I'm so jealous that they got Helen Mirren. I love Helen Mirren. She's my God, she's incredible. But we got Tilda Swinton and we got
I know you're talking about.
Why am I blanking? Kate Blanchett.
Oh
my gosh. Yeah, Kate Blanchett. Yes, winner. Stunner.
Yeah.
All right. We're still not done with characters.
I know. Is it the big ones?
Oh, no.
Oh my God, no, we still have.
So to kind of go back to the trading cards, we're gonna sway and shimmy on over to Celestials. So for this one, I'm gonna read the card first before we get into them, because unlike the Eternals, we're not going to cover them all. It would be impossible. But there are quite a few that actually have substantial comparisons in the MCU so far.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about them, but not all of them. So from the card, by Impel, 1992, Marvel Universe, the Celestials. The ancient and unknowable race called the Celestials use their monumental godlike abilities to tamper with mankind's evolution, creating the benevolent superhuman species known as the Eternals, and their dark, twisted brother race, the Deviants. What motivated the Celestials in their strange experiment is unknown, as are the consequences should they return to Earth to judge the results of their work.
Wow.
So, quite similar.
Yeah.
They created both. So, a very good comparison, like a very short version of how to tier these characters. Celestials, God.
Oh, yeah.
Eternals, angels. Deviants, demons.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Sounds about right.
You have it, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody's an Evangelion fan, it is very similar to Evangelion to me in a very weird way. Just also conceptually, the Eternals look maybe it's Evangelion stole from Celestials, honestly, but they're these gigantic, like beings that were created for a certain purpose. There's religious aspects to it, what have you. And they kind of look like them in a weird way. They have multiple eyes that are all, they're all symbolic in some way. So in the comic books, there are nearly 40 Celestials in the books. So we do not know if they're ever going to do this.
Yeah.
But there are 40 of them.
That is a lot.
There's a lot of them. So we're going to, much like the Eternals, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between a couple of them that we're familiar with, just only 3. And, I sent you this picture as recent as Friday. But in pop culture, if you will, when you walk into the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride at Disney California Adventure, there has been, since its creation, there has been this wall that when they split the 2 lines of the collector's, emporium, they have these, would you call them like heads or something?
Sure, yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. They have these head sculptures on the wall, and they are the Celestials. Ooh. They're Celestials. And if you look at them, you're just like, if you didn't know, or you just kind of walk by, you don't realize, but it's the primary circle of the Celestials. And so, when it comes to Guardians, the story and their origin, it very much intersects for obvious reasons. Yeah. Celestials are at the kind of the head of all of this cosmic. Yeah,
they're like the creators.
Yeah, the
of
cosmic
the universe,
branch.
If you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And and it's even said in the film, like that Arishem, created the he birthed the first sun or whatever, the literal planet sun. And so this again, Eternals serves as a film that not only introduces these characters, but it's expanding the universe.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
I remember seeing the Celestials on screen is so monumental.
Trippy. Yeah.
Gigantic. Especially, you really feel like how massive they are.
Right. Which I think is almost lost in some respects in the previous films, not to diminish them in those films like Thor and Guardians, but it's interesting that you get, they're big, but then in Eternals, you see exponentially.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're
and I'm
huge.
Glad because that's how they should be portrayed.
Exactly.
You gotta feel like there's this presence, and it's like, how do you defeat this presence?
Right, exactly. So, like I said, we're just going to talk about a couple of them. The first one is Isan. And so Isan is a celestial they all have these designations, and so not to compare it to the seven dwarves, but there's like sneezy, sleepy.
Yeah.
So each one has a task of designation, and so Isan, his is to seek. He's the seeker. And he was first introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And he's the Celestial we see with the staff. And he decimates like that planet with the Power Stone. And in the comics, Isan, he's titled Isan the Searcher. He debuted in Eternals number 9, December 1976. Another early character. And then we have, like I mentioned, Arishem. And Arishem is, I guess you could just call him the Prime Celestial, especially for this film.
Yeah, Arishem the Judge.
Arishem the Judge, yeah. Fun fact for you, he was voiced by David Kaye, a.k.a., are you ready for this? Because when I realized, I was like, duh! David Kaye, a.k.a. Megatron, Optimus Prime. In various Transformers series.
That guy? He's iconic.
He's an icon.
Oh my gosh.
And so he
it makes sense.
Yeah, David Kaye voiced Arishem in the film, and he was also, for other Marvel properties, he was Professor X and Apocalypse in X-Men Evolution. And he was several characters in Avengers Assemble the cartoon. He was Jarvis, Vision, Baron Zemo, a few other characters. Wow. Yeah, so that was like so cool. And you could kind of almost, all these big names aside, you kind of forget like, oh yeah, of course, like these characters that are CGI for all intents and purposes, they also have people that are, like visionaries behind them as well. Mm-hmm. And that's true for Arishem. And in the comics, Arishem the Judge debuted in Eternals number 2, August 1976, and so his purpose is quite cut and dry. He's to judge. He's judging whether or not civilization of a planet lives or dies. Spot on. Spot on.
There's no around it. That's literally what he's in the movie. That's not a spoiler either. That's literally what,
exact adaptation. And, like on this trading card, for instance, they'll have like colors too that are very specific to them.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily correlating to the singularities, aka the stones, but. So Arishem is red, and then like Isan is like a purple, bluish, and et cetera, et cetera. And also introduced in Eternals is Nazar the Calculator, Jeremiah the Analyzer, and Hargan the Measurer. We don't get a huge depth of them. They're shown very briefly. Mm-hmm. Again, the colors give it away. They're orange and green and blah, blah, blah. I absolutely 100% think they're going to expand on them.
Have to.
Right?
After like at the end.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, all of those three Celestials debuted in the comics around 1976, 1977 as well. So you kind of get basically a lot of the important characters from 76, 77 are in this film. They're represented in this film in some way, save for some of the humans. And then we have Tiamat, which is a huge part of the film that we won't go into because it's a gigantic spoiler. But it's very plainly said that, Celestials are born of different planets. Tiamat happened to have the host planet Earth. In the comics, Tiamat is Tiamat the Communicator or the Dreaming Celestial. And it debuted in Eternals number 18, December 1977. And so those are the Celestials we're going to cover. That wasn't that bad at all. But there's so much coming.
I just can't even exaggerate the scale of these guys.
Oh, they're so crazy.
It's like crazy and like
scary too.
With each new Marvel movie that comes out, I mean, like we said, we saw the trailer, the second trailer for Spider-Man, and then we saw Eternals. Mm-hmm. You just think back 12 years ago, this was never even a thought.
I know.
Everything was street level.
It was so street level.
Even when Thor came out, we were like, "Ooh, we're getting into
Norse gods."
Yeah, we're getting into Norse mythology. Is that gonna work? Are you sure? Do the people want that? Mm-hmm. And it took some time, but it worked. Yeah. And then because it worked, then you can. And then Guardians came out, so you see Marvel slowly chipping
Yep.
away. Because then now you can tell these kinds of stories. Like if you were to just release Eternals in 2010 or even 11,
never.
It would bomb.
It would have bombed so
It
hard.
would bomb.
And it would have been an hour and 12 minutes long.
Because people don't understand it.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's the path that they have paved, and also just in time, not to be fastest about it, but like also how technology has evolved, and that itself, evolution, is a big theme of this film and its characters, and so how that correlates to real life, and it's just right place, right time.
Like we're in a place with Marvel of like we're dealing with these cosmic beings, Eternals, galaxies, universes, multiverses now.
So crazy. So crazy.
You know what I'm? So it's like the amount of just like storytelling that you can do. Live action. Obviously, this is in a live action space, which when you think about it is technically impossible in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Like, you can't do this.
Yeah. And also not have them look like cartoons.
Yes.
Like straight up cartoons. Like these guys, you feel the depth of field. You feel the vastness of them. And also, again, like with Macaria, for instance, the way that they treat the sound that even like surrounds the Celestials. Like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know.
You feel the scale. You feel the everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And then when you watch like Eternals and you're just like,
I mean,
it's like you believe it, you know?
Because they could have, not that they should have, they could have easily done the Rise of Silver Surfer treatment with Galactus and made it a cloud. They could have just had a thing that that's easy to CGI.
Yeah,
just
cloud.
Done it. Or CGI'd a dude in a suit, and but no, they really have tapped into this potential of like, let's have this crazy grand scale of mass and power.
I just remember seeing Arishem for the first time on the IMAX screen. It was just like...
See, now you know I like to watch IMAX first time.
You're kind of just like, I can't believe this is like, it looks mildly like, when I say mildly, it means like, obviously we know it's not real.
Right.
But like, you believe that there is maybe a universe where like, you know what, maybe that is possible. Maybe there is like cosmic beings that control this universe.
Right.
So
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like seeing Ajax face to face with Arishem, I was like, oh, I knew he was like huge, but oh my god.
He's like, we're basically, like
dust
eyelashes.
Particle, like dust particles.
It's so tiny.
That's crazy.
Oh,
yeah, so I love that. I love it. I love the direction they're going. Even with obviously like the two post-credit scene, which we won't talk about.
We will not discuss.
But wow, even that one's moving the needle. Yeah, just those two alone.
And I will say, spoiler free, but of those two credit scenes, I feel like even those split off to two completely different adventures,
stories,
completely different parts of the Marvel universe. Which is like,
and you're like, wow, you just said, dang, screw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so great. Oh, I'm so stoked. But so they're nearly 40. I believe they're 37 or something.
It's a lot,
36. Man. So they have potential to tap into 30 plus more Celestials if they want to. So gosh, we'll see, I guess. And then, I kind of wanted to dive into the human characters just a tiny bit. Because who doesn't love Karun, who is Kingo's right-hand man, a.k.a. human valet and cameraman, portrayed by Haris Patel. I hope I say that correctly. He's just so wonderful, and he's like another one of those. I believe he is a completely original character again. So Karun is joining the cast of original characters like Darcy and, the other ones that we have been introduced to, like I believe the kids from Ant-Man and such. So I hope to see more of him. But I do feel also he served his quote unquote purpose. He was just like a kind of like a very balancing human factor in the film because we're dealing with all of these.
Yes, exactly. Like
and crazy powered people.
Like he saw.
He represented all of us.
He was telling the movie through a human's eyes.
Yeah, he was the humanity of humans in the film.
Like giving the perspective to the Eternals. Like, hey, like, I know you guys are these super beings, but this is how we see you.
Yeah.
Like, we think, even though we'll never see you, like, you know, saving the world, whatever.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do it in the shadows. But
yeah.
Just thank you.
He was so good. I loved him. I appreciated him very much. And then my other favorite, Dane Whitman.
Oh, yeah.
Portrayed by Mr. Kit Harington, a.k.a. Jon Snow. He knows nothing. He's a history professor at the NHM of London. Mm-hmm. Again, very jealous that NHM London has Professor Dane Whitman under their staff, but, you know, whatever. And so for Dane, as much as I want to go into him, I'm going to save him for his own episode.
I don't think there was ever been a movie where they use a movie just to set up a character.
You think?
Like that. Like, they didn't even...
Like that? Oh, I guess you're right.
They didn't even, like... You know, I mean, okay, obviously if you know the character Dane Whitman, this is not like, you know.
No, this is not going to be news to people who are familiar. However.
He plays I can say it, right?
Oh!
Never mind. No, don't say it.
Don't say it.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
Though. Like,
he's obviously more important than people would perceive.
Yeah.
People, I think, the snap judgments that were made about the film from people who are not familiar with Eternals, who are not familiar with Dane Whitman, think, oh, Kit Harington's playing the human. Okay, cool, whatever. Who cares? It's not fun. It's not interesting. However, the way that they are setting this character up truly is a grassroots from the seeds, from the soil. Yeah. They're nourishing this little baby plant.
Yeah. Not really many MCU movies have done that, right?
Really?
Where they use a movie to solely set up the character without you seeing them in their full form at the end of the movie.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and he still has what I perceive as a pretty substantial amount, even though he's not in it much at all. Yeah. He's in it less than Karun, I think. Kinda?
Might be. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think he has the least screen time, but he still, even then, has a lot of screen time.
And he's going to, you know.
Yeah, and he's going to have more, obviously. Yeah. But, you know, sparing all other details that make him incredibly interesting. And I will just say, I have many trading cards of this character, which is kind of funny. I didn't even realize. I was like, oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. In the books, Dane is also what you would call Cersei's main love interest. So yeah, we'll see more from Kit Harington, and I do want to do an episode on him.
I hope it's sooner than later.
Me too. I hope it will be. I don't know when. Maybe next year. But yeah, he'll have his own. Yeah. He'll have his own episode soon. And then I had one more character or two more characters, but I'm gonna scratch them since we're gonna go full ham, not spoiler on any of that. Okay. But we can talk about them later. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to also. And believe it or not, we're still not done. So, last but most certainly not least, the Deviants. So, you know, they're perceived as just these monstrosities. Mm-hmm. From the get-go, you get, okay, they're creatures. They're not quite human. They're not like the Eternals where they're refined and exquisite gems of the celestial gods, you know? Yeah. In the comics, they're known as changing people, mongrels, scum. Nice. Scrum. I feel like I'm staring at that Guardians thing, and so all these Guardians terms give through my brain. So they're regarded as like trash people, pretty much. And but their scientific term, if you will, is Homo descendus, which you can imagine is basically like lower human. Mm-hmm. And so their story in the comics is pretty interesting. It's very much a tale of evolution. And so they originated as Homo erectus, you know, an extinct species of archaic human from the Pleistocene, which is about 2 million years ago, aka the Ice Age. I'm also a herald of the tar pits, so this is right up my alley. Nice. And so basically they were the ape human man, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so Celestial Gamenon the Gatherer gathered Homo erectus and then sent them to Zeron the Tester. So here we go. We're being introduced to different Celestials in the comics. Whether or not, these facts in particular are not, we're not told any of this in the film. It was very simple they were like Erisham. They were like, the Deviants came from nowhere.
They created them and they went off the rails. Sorry.
They're gone. So they're somewhere. They originated from space. Whereas, here in the comics, we're being, connected to all of the branches that bring them together. So these two Celestials, one Celestial, Ziran gives them to Gamanon gives them to Zeron, who tests the stability of the genes of the life form. So it's almost like a quality control, which is so terrible.
I know.
But let's call it a spade a spade. And it's Zeran who then mutated them with an unstable genome, creating deviants, aka Homo descendus, who then Nazar the Calculator balanced by creating Eternals. Jeffrey's just shaking his head.
It's like, oh crap, we created a problem. All right, let's create these people.
Exactly. Like, how do we? Okay. Yeah, and it's very much oil and water. It's like, okay,
Jesus.
Would all of these, every single analogy you can imagine is what this storyline is. So they're considered defects. They're mutated. This is, again, another thing that's very similar as it is dissimilar to the X-Men, and the X-Men, their whole strife is that, they're different from the rest of humanity, both in good and bad ways. Sure, they have powers, but some of them they appear defected and they appear a certain way. That instills fear in people. People push away what they don't understand. Yeah. They're officially bad, not good, what have you. And so the Deviants are kind of like that, but on a grander scale, where they are like quite literally monstrosities in ways, because they're like in the trailer and in the film, where they're just like, they're more animalistic in the film, of course. You see them, they take on animalistic attributes like tiger, like, what was that? Like a cat thing, a lizard, an eagle, but they're all mutated and scary looking. And so, the whole idea is that they're not heavenly like their celestial counterparts. They're not part of the celestial design, which is like a bigger picture idea in the grand scope of what the universe is in general, they're just the yin to the yang. If the Celestials and the Eternals are just so beautiful and pristine and graceful, there has to be an ugly opposite. There has to be an opposite, and so they're the Deviants. We're only actually introduced to one deviant by name in the film, who is Crow, who is the figure you see in the trailer. So this is not a spoiler. He's the one that holds Angelina's character Thena. And you're like, you can't protect them, whatever he says. And he is voiced by Bill Skarsgård, aka Pennywise from the It films, aka Stellan Skarsgård's son, who's Alexander Skarsgård's brother. One of 25 of the Skarsgårds. Which I was like, wait, which one was, he was him. And he is great. He's a great voice actor. I think his voice is really what made Pennywise so scary.
Yeah. Oh,
on top of the actual ability to cross his eyes different ways. But in the comics, Crow is a much different character. Like I said, in the film, they're very animalistic, very like primal animal, whatever creatures. They're creatures. In the comics, Crow is they're just like they're mutated. Like Toxie. And so in the comics, he's red. He's kind of red, I think. He kind of looks like a devil, if you will, and he has like glasses or something.
Oh, wow.
He just looks weird. He just looks weird, but it's all part of him. Like he's got a sculpted face, a very prominent, features. And he's a warlord. He's a dictator and a general to the Deviants. But he also wears like clothes.
Oh, interesting.
So they're they're just weird looking people. And in the comics, he's more than 100,000 years old, secretly an immortal shapeshifter, closer to the Eternals than his own kind. So he's then forced to hide his powers from people. So he's kind of like a double agent. Yeah. So it's very different because in the film, Crow seems very like he appears like an alien almost. He's on his hind legs but he still has these weird characteristics. And so it's like, again, it's a very modern take compared to the comic book version, which is more or less like a bridge troll. Yeah. And to bounce back to the MCU version, Crow is based on Cronus, or said to be based on Cronus from Greek mythology, who is then linked to Cronus of a different spelling, who is the personification of time in philosophy and literature. So it's like, okay, interesting. Again, kind of like a stem of evolution. And which Chronos is the Greek word for time. So I think, conceptually the film is a lot of time concepts as it is. The literal name is eternal, Eternals. Yeah. And so it's like time, everything is time-based, different points in time, before Christ, all of that, and then the future, the present. And so it's like, okay, so you have these overarching themes that are present and consistent with the film and the comics. Whereas Crow in the comics, he's often mistaken to be the Olympian Pluto, the devil. So again, that kind of gives you an idea of what he looks like, even if you don't know even if you don't see a picture of him, you kind of get the feel of, okay, he has devil-like attributes. And this is what I meant when there was a few interesting relationships within the Eternals, to which is directly related to the Deviants, that in the books, he's the secret lover of Thena.
That is, I remember you brought that up to me, and I was like, ooh, interesting.
Spicy, right?
Wonder if that would ever work.
And so they kind of not even spoil, but they kind of represent that in the trailer by showing that scene of Angelina bound and Thena bound, by Crow, and kind of like they have encounters.
Yeah, like a moment. They had a moment.
Yeah. And he even says some things in the film where you're just kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? And of course, there's reason for what comes out of his mouth. But yeah, so I thought that was, again, another interesting Easter egg that they kind of just like pepper in. And you're like, oh, interesting. And so in the books, he's kind of wishy-washy. He's an ally sometimes because of the fact that he's closer to Eternals than he would be a deviant. But, that's Crow for you.
Wow.
And so this is an interesting little tidbit. This poses the question that many people have mentioned in the general scape of things, especially in terms of bridging the gap between the era of Thanos to the now. Does that then make Thanos a deviant? So for those of you who aren't familiar, Thanos, and I believe we said this in another episode, Thanos and Thena are cousins.
Yes.
And so their fathers are brothers. And so, of course, as we know, Thena is an Eternal.
Yes.
So what does that make Thanos? Well, I pulled this from Wikipedia because there's just no better way to say it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read this. Thanos was born on Saturn's moon, Titan, as the son of Eternals Alars and Sui-San. His brother is Eros of Titan. Thanos carries the Deviant's gene and as such shares the physical appearance of the Eternals' cousin race. Shocked by his appearance and the belief that he would destroy all life in the universe, Sui-San attempted to kill him, but she was stopped by Alars. So basically he was a deformed child. They tried to get rid of him, and it didn't happen, which is why the killing Thanos as a baby joke is a thing. because they're like, we could have saved the universe.
We just killed Thanos.
If we just killed the baby. But, it's just messed up. I mean.
Recap question.
Yes.
When he goes to Vormir with Gamora.
Yeah.
Does Red Skull say Thanos, son of...
Does he say anything to Thanos?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure because he's like, Gamora.
Yeah.
Daughter of Thanos.
He did the same thing?
And then he goes, Thanos, son of either Alars or...
He did.
He did.
Look
Yeah.
at you. Oh, so proud of you. Shoot, I didn't catch that. Yeah, I just Googled it.
He's there. He says Alars.
Red Skull first introduces himself to Thanos in 2018 when Thanos and his adoptive daughter Gamora had arrived at Vormir during his crusade to balance their universe. They were both welcomed by Red Skull, who knew of their true identities, referring to Thanos as the son of Alars and Gamora as the daughter of Thanos.
What a great Easter egg.
Dang!
Yeah.
God, you're good. Shoot. Yeah, so that's essentially where any of the chitter chatter that is Thanos a deviant comes to mind because of that notation. And if you know Alars, he's an Eternal, and it's bringing all of these characters together. And so,
I love how Thanos is just still
I know
prominent
he's
in conversation.
Still here, right? And clearly his family will live on in some way. Yeah,
That's what they are.
Yeah. So that is all of the characters we're going to cover. So, we're deviating, not to be punny, but we're deviating from our usual, love interests and affiliations. We don't have to go into any of that stuff. But, I will touch very briefly on aesthetic, because obviously they look different now than they did. But has your... And we talked about this, I believe, in the previous Mini Marvel 2, where someone asked us what our favorite, I think it was Damien, asked us what our favorite costume was.
Oh, probably.
And you said you were feeling Gilgamesh's outfit. Has that changed now that you've seen the film? Do you have a more favorite outfit from the Eternals?
Oof.
And now that we can actually see what's pliable and what is actual armor.
They were all real costumes. I love the design on them, the whole
so
circles
good.
and lines. And
it's also proof that not everything has to be CGI.
Yeah.
It's it
can be enhanced in CGI for sure.
Yeah.
But if you just have that on, oh man.
Well, because it's funny that you even say that because most people don't realize Gamora and Drax are CGI'd to Kingdom Come.
Yes.
There's a great percentage of actual prosthetics and everything.
Vision too.
Vision's a great one too. But there is a number of CGI touch-ups done, and I don't know. I guess we'll see with Eternals.
I was digging Druig's digs a little bit. Yeah,
the little skirt.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I feel again to touch on the whole history of Druids. I almost feel that it was very priestly. It was very of the Druids that you see skulking around in all black and stuff. And I was I like that.
I mean, and then Ajax headpiece is pretty cool.
Yeah, solid.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And then Thena's just white gold ensemble is
so
just kind
good.
of just elegance.
Yeah. And very Greek.
Yeah, and then when she creates her weapons of matter, it's that's crazy. It's cool.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah.
So I'd probably.
It's another one. Favorite child. You can't.
I know it's tough. I like how green looks on Cersei.
Yeah. I agree.
On Gemma Chan, I like how that looks.
Because even with just this source photo of Cersei in front of us, imagining Gemma Chan in red. Tonally, it just would have. It would have changed the balance for the character because it's not a harmonious color. Yeah. And this is where color comes into play. It's very important.
Or even Makari's red and gold.
I loved Makari.
Yeah, like that.
Oh yeah. See, and that's an interesting thing. Imagine that suit on Cersei, and then perhaps even green on Makari. It wouldn't have the same.
Because when she's you see the gold trails.
Yes.
So it's
so good. Yeah.
It's tough.
It's so tough. I think for me though, I will say I think again, I think Makari takes it for me.
Yeah, it's hard.
But I do like them all.
She really stole the show.
She really. I'm usually one to gravitate to blue because I love blue.
Me too. I love
Festus is great. I just think that the way that they balanced Makari's outfit from head to toe, and yes, the emphasis of when she's running.
Even Kingo's purple is nice too.
I know, Kingo is great too. I like Kingo's blue outfit. You have to see the movie.
Yeah.
And of course, your favorite almost was.
Here we go.
There wasn't actually. I didn't find any juicy bits for this. Sadly, I was hoping I would find juicy bits for everybody.
I do have a story though. I do.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So very quickly, Kumail apparently once auditioned for an unspecified Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. role, but didn't get it. So I've been trying to think, who did he audition for? I can't think of anybody. Maybe Patton Oswalt's character. I'm not sure. And then, of course, he did a recent photo shoot as different icons in movies. And he posed as Wolverine in one of them. It's so good. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. Oh my gosh. And nearly everyone in the film was tapped for their role specifically.
Which is so great.
Oh, it's so great. Approached with their thoughts and just like, hey, what do you think about this character? What would you change for this character?
Yeah.
What would you like to see for this character?
The beauty.
Yeah, while others just auditioned the old-fashioned way, like Sprite and Leah McHugh. Like, you know, they all did virtual because it was like right on the precipice of COVID. So yeah, so that's that for Almost Was. What's your story?
I think it's about Kumail.
Oh yeah.
It was. I think Nate. It was. There was an interview with Nate Moore, and there was a tidbit saying like
not Nate Moore, but Nate Moore.
Nate Moore. Then there was an interview saying that like, oh yeah, like I think Kumail, because of the pandemic, it freed up their schedule kind of thing. And it was because Kumail was going to have a small role in Guardians 3.
Yes! I read about this. Yeah, no,
and then
go for it.
James Gunn retweeted and clarified. He was like, I approached Kumail, my friend. I wanted him to have a small role, just, you know, in Guardians 3. Yeah. But then Kevin called me, Feige called me. It was like, he's like, hey, we're thinking about having him as a prominent role in this movie. And then James was like, cool. Totally. Yeah. Please, that's much better. Yeah. And then, that's how,
I think Comic Book actually posted a screenshot, or they posted a reel about that encounter.
Probably.
And I then commented, because this is what I do. I commented, he said something like, James had said, oh, he's my friend and I wanted to have him around. So I wanted to spend a couple of days with him on set. And then I added James Gunn. I was like, I too wish to be your friend and spend some time with you on set. And James always likes my stuff. So I was like, did he like it yet? Did he like it yet? Did he like it? He did not like it yet. But I'm still waiting for my invitation. Mr. Gunn, if you're listening, please.
Pain.
Please.
But I love that. I love that each actor was very specific. You know,
I agree.
You know, kind of kudos to Sarah Finn. Yeah. Kudos to Feige, and kudos to Chloe Zhao, because you can tell she had the vision of who wanted to play these characters.
And I hope she gets to play around a little more, like be it an Eternals film. I don't know if it's like, you know, because there's been discussion like, oh, there doesn't need to be a number 2. There's not going to be a number 2, but then the Eternals will still be around. Yeah. So
they can't not be around.
There's going to be something. Yeah. Whether it's a sequel or not. But I would love to see her get a chance to play around with other characters or another suite of these characters, whatever it is. I'd like to see more from her. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the end of the show. Some suggested reading. You know what? Start from the beginning. Just go back to King Kirby, read the compilations, read the omnibus, get all the old stuff. There's also, of course, the notable and incomparable Neil Gaiman, who also took his hand at the Eternals much after King Kirby did. Of course, Gaiman is another powerhouse in nonfiction and comics. He has Sandman, American Gods, Coraline. All of that stuff is Neil Gaiman. So if you want some Eternals from him and his flavor, get at it. So thanks for listening.
This was a doozy.
It's a doozy.
Wow.
Thanks for hanging in there if you're still with us.
Yeah.
Send us some character study suggestions. So I did the math. We have, two episodes left before the end of the year. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to make the executive decision to not cover Kate Bishop next. We're going to save her for perhaps the end of Hawkeye, and then we can really get a feel for her.
True.
And I'm gonna go ahead and, in the spirit of Guardians of the Galaxy, the game, we're gonna cover Peter Quill.
Star-Lord himself.
Oh, yeah. So join us for that.
Should be fun.
Yeah, a We Are Groot salute to Laura C. and Ashley, who are new to the tier. Woo! And of course, newcomer Nats, as well as veterans Robin, Melanie, Ariel, Claire, Andrew, Jenny, Joliz, and Ed. Follow us on all the things at STRKCNTRST. And if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah, it may not seem like it, but it helps us out a lot.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Leave a thumbs up.
Yes, please.
Subscribe.
Anything.
Leave positive comments.
Like a picture.
And maybe negative. Help us. Help us.
Oh, I guess so.
Critical.
The deviant to our celestial and eternal.
Constructive criticism is great too.
This is true.
But yeah, we appreciate it all. If you're still with us, Dai said, because this was a lot to intake. A lot of characters. And if you haven't seen Eternals yet, please go.
Go see it.
It's an amazing movie. We both loved it.
Yes.
And we can't wait to see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
I bet you've built the perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium? Fall collection. IKEA.
La 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 la. Gobble gobble. Thanksgiving. Friendsgiving. Turkey Day.
Cool, I got that.